Congress than Heidi, so let's give it up for Heidi St. John.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming out. This is a great turnout. This time last year, we were doing something similar. How many of you guys were here this time last year? And you remember what was happening, right? So we put out an emergency call to Clark County, and we said, come out to Valida Park, and we're going to have people here that are going to help you maintain your freedoms in the workplace. Because we saw that the governor's overreach, the federal government was outside of its jurisdiction, people were being fired from their jobs because they didn't want to take an experimental vaccine. We were watching people losing their livelihoods. The government was telling us who was essential and who was not essential. Let me tell you right now, that is not the role of the government. That's not the role of government. We can never let it happen again. And so we had several hundred of you out here last year, and we saw notary publics were here, and we got a lot of medical exemptions and religious exemptions signed that night. And we're back tonight because we're facing a different battle. The battle that we're facing right now is going to be a battle for the ballot box. It's going to be a battle to decide who is going to represent us in Congress, who's going to represent us locally, who's going to represent us in our state houses and on our city councils. And tonight I have invited some people that I have already heard speak several times. They're people that I believe in and know that your vote would be well placed. And so I asked them to come and speak to you tonight and introduce themselves to you. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. I'm only going to talk for a few minutes. But I love this area. My husband Jay and I have been raising 7 children here for the last 20 years. We've been married for almost 33 years. We have 4 grandchildren that are being raised in Camas right now. And our nation is in trouble. How many of you recognize that our nation is in trouble? We are at the jumping off place right now. We're at the jumping off place into communism. We're staring socialism right down the barrel right now because we have people representing us who do not stand for freedom. And as long as we continue to send people to the highest positions of authority in our land and to the school boards and to our city councils, we will continue to lose our freedom. I said to someone the other day that I'm concerned that America is going to bleed out one paper cut at a time. And when you send people to represent you who will not stand up for individual liberty and for limited government, we have moved away from what the Founding Fathers intended when they gave us the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We are blessed to live here in the United States. Have you noticed that all the people who are whining and crying about capitalism and telling that they hate this country aren't leaving the country for Venezuela? They're not banging down the doors to get into New Zealand. They're not clamoring to get into Canada. It's the other way around, because America stands for freedom.
That's right.
And unless and until we begin again to honor the Constitution and the rule of law in this country, we're going to continue to see a slow slide away from freedom and into socialism. As I've watched what's happening to the nation that I love and to the area that I love, my husband and I, a year and a half ago, made a very important decision. And we decided that we would lay it all on the line for freedom.
Yeah.
I don't need the job in Congress. I've got a wonderful family. I got a wonderful job. I'm a best-selling author. I've written 8 books. I have a podcast that airs 5 days a week called Off the Bench with Heidi St. John. But I know the sound of the voice of the Lord. And he said, run and represent the people of Southwest Washington. I would like to see a return of the citizen statesman. The Founding Fathers never intended for us to elect people to go to Congress and to the White House and the Senate and to various places of authority in our country and have them stay there their entire lives. The men who founded this country left their farms and their families, and they gave of their time and their treasure and their sacred honor to secure for us what the Founding Fathers called the blessings of liberty.
Yeah.
In the Constitution, which is the most amazing governing document ever written by human hands, we read that we have certain unalienable rights.
Right.
And among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we just saw the Supreme Court of the United States finally, after 50 years, right a terrible injustice that's been inflicted upon this country in the reversal of Roe v. Wade. The Founding Fathers never anticipated that this kind of thing would happen in our country. They never anticipated that we would see a United States Senate. This is happening right now, by the way, attempting to take away your right to self-defense. And in fact, the Constitution clearly states that the right of an American citizen to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And when we allow them to infringe upon our right to self-defense, we are sliding into socialism. Why do you think it was so easy for the government to take over in Australia? The people are unarmed. Why do you think it's so easy for the dictator and the tyrant Trudeau to do what he's doing to the good people north of us in Canada? It's because they are unarmed and they don't have a voice. We have a voice. And if we're not going to lose it, we need to send people to represent us who will stand boldly and defend it. It's one of the reasons I'm running for Congress, and we're going to need your help. There are a lot of people running for different seats right now, and I picked very carefully the people that I invited to come with me tonight. It's not enough anymore for us to look at who's a Republican and who's a Democrat or who's an independent. We need to start looking at the voting history of the people that want to represent us, because it matters. Because it matters who we vote for. It matters the platforms that we represent. And I represent the Republican platform. And recently I was in Wenatchee at a Republican convention, and I was alarmed to hear members of my own party talking about softening the language on abortion and softening the language on our Second Amendment freedoms. And the reason that they are wanting to soften the language is because they believe that unless we soften it, we won't get the votes of the people and we'll never win. Well, I'm here to tell you right now that unless we get more bold about freedom, we will lose our freedom. This is not the time to be softer. This is the time to be more bold and outspoken. Someone asked me the other day why I would lay it all on the line and run to represent the people of Southwest Washington. And it's because I love this area very much. My past is here. My future is here. My present is here. All three of the businesses that my husband and I started are here. I'm a solutions person. When Jay and I saw the corruption that was happening in the public schools, we began to offer the parents of Southwest Washington alternatives. 5 years ago, we opened the Homeschool Resource Center after planting 60 homeschool cooperatives around the United States, in Germany, and in Canada, because we saw the writing on the wall 24 years ago. Activists disguised as educators have infiltrated our education system. From our grade schools to our universities, they are cranking out by the hundreds of thousands every single year students who hate this country. And I know that it's true because for the last 17 years I've been traveling around this nation I call home and talking to these students. And the scariest thing about it is they believe they're on a righteous mission. They believe that capitalism is bad because no one's ever told them that socialism actually kills people. And capitalism gives people more opportunity and more hope than any other economic system on the face of the earth. Do we have flaws in the country? Yes, we do. Our biggest flaw right now is Joe Biden. Yes. We've got flaws in this country, but the way to fix the flaws in this nation is not to continue to take us down a path that has not worked before and will not work now. Now is the time to stand for freedom. I'd like to see the federal government out of our education system for starters. Did you guys know that the federal government is funding grants to support things like critical race theory and the 1619 Project, turning one student against another? What happened to Martin Luther's dream that he had, that someday his children would not be known for the color of their skin, but for the content of their character? Men and women, we're not going forward, we're going backward, and we're going backward fast. And so I'm going to stand for freedom. I'm going to stand for limited government because I understand the principles of freedom, which, by the way, are very simple. They're not hard to understand. Our universities are making them difficult, but they're not difficult. And what we're seeing happen on the Supreme Court right now is actually amazing. Justice Alito, and we're watching Clarence Thomas and a couple of the other justices, they're taking the language that's come before us as American people, and they're actually giving it to you in something that you can digest rather than having to look up every other word on Google and try to figure out what they mean. They very clearly said that the Supreme Court was outside of its jurisdiction when it decided to codify Roe v. Wade, and so they kicked it back to the states according to the 10th Amendment. If it's not laid out in the Constitution, it becomes a states' rights issue. And most of the issues that you see the federal government meddling in right now are none of their business. They're none of their business. We need more control right here in the states, and the only way we're going to get that is if we start sending people to Congress who actually know what the Congress is supposed to do. And I've been studying this amazing country. I'm a homeschool mom. Someone asked me why I didn't run for office before now, and I'll tell you, it's very simple. I've been raising 7 children for the last 30 years. 5 of our children are grown now. They can hold jobs. They love this country. They love the Lord. They can make their own beds, and I felt like that was the most important thing that I could be doing.
That's right.
And honestly, America needs a mom right now. Really bad. America needs a timeout. Like, no, you don't actually get to pass that legislation. Go to your room, read the Constitution, come back out, and let's talk about it. That's what needs to happen. And I promise you, if you guys send me to Congress, you're going to hear an awful lot about a homeschool mom from Battleground, Washington, schooling sitting representatives on what the rights and rights are of the American people and what the Congress can and cannot do according to the Constitution. Are you guys with me? It's time to make a change.